My name is Julie Trevisan-Hunter, Marketing Manager and Whisky Advisor at the Scotch Whisky Experience. 4 years ago, I was lucky enough to be made a keeper of the Quaich, which is the tartan and the medal that I'm wearing currently. Keeper of the Quaich was set up 21 years ago by the Scotch whisky industry to recognise people who've made a real contribution to marketing Scotch whisky in an international fashion, so really taking whisky out to the rest of the world. And at the Scotch Whisky Experience, the vast majority of our visitors that come through are international guests. So I was made a keeper of the Quaich, and I guess that was one of my sort of crowning moments where I felt very proud of what I'd managed to do. We do whisky tastings for visitors, obviously, but also for private groups and corporate groups as well. So frequently sitting down with a group of people who are fascinated about discovering a little bit more about the single malts and the blends, and talking them through all the different flavours and characteristics, but also really delving into the geography of Scotland and how that influences the flavour, and concentrating a lot on the anecdotes of whisky history and the different people in the industry and the different distilleries, because those are the things that are often a bit more memorable than just the flavours and characteristics of the whiskies. You don't necessarily need to take your first sip of Scotch whisky and love the flavour to love Scotch whisky. You may in fact think it's a little bit challenging, a bit strong for you, and something that you might come round to later but not straight away, but that doesn't stop you being fascinated by the way in which it's been produced for over 500 years, that's never ever changed, or the people that you've met when you've travelled around Scotland at the distilleries who've told you about their forefathers that worked in the distillery and can point out barrels in the warehouse that their grandfather laid down. And these are stories that are so personal and so imbued with so much emotion and meaning for people that they make the industry something really quite unique. Also, Scotch whisky is literally produced all over Scotland in the most far-flung places that are not the most economically viable solutions for places to make a product and then transport it. But it's essential in terms of the diversity of the flavour and the character of Scotch whisky. So we continue to make whisky all over the islands and the highlands of Scotland, as well as down towards the lowland areas and the central belt as well. And that gives people the opportunity, wherever they are in Scotland, to have a really fabulous Scotch whisky experience. So I think there's lots and lots of different things that appeal to different people, and I think that's why Scotch whisky has been so successful, because everybody's different, but there's something in Scotch whisky that appeals to almost everyone.
Slanjava.